Whether you're thinking about quitting your job, starting a side hustle, or just curious about the realities of being your own boss, this podcast explores the possibilities of being unemployed for a living. Welcome back to another episode of Unemployed for a Living. I am Ken.
I'm Cory.
And that's Cory over there. And we are back together. Fun playtime is over.
Playtime's over.
Yes. A big shout out to Dan and Demand for filling in last week while I was at the Nashville meetup. And
I tried to convince him to stay on. Just stay with me.
The episode was very well received. It's always good to hear from Dan, and it was good. You know, we don't talk a lot on this show about what we do as far as our regular self-employment as being resellers. And so it was great to have a guest on to kind of talk about that and hear some of those different strategies and within our field. And so it was cool and appreciate Dan for doing that. And now
guest.
it's time to get back to work. Well, as we were talking about it kind of being gone, and then a couple of weeks ago you were gone at your meetup, the Planes to Profit, and we got to talking about some of the freedoms that you get when you are self-employed, and
the ability to do that.
To be able to take off some time that is not always the same if you have a regular 9-to-5 job where you might have to schedule a certain vacation time around things. But there's also those two sides of being self-employed or unemployed for a living. Is there's also those responsibilities when you're the one that is solely responsible for that income. So there's the freedoms, and then there's the
old ball and chain.
What do you want to call it? Yeah, the old ball and chain of having to keep your business going. And so we thought we'd talk a little bit about that today, because we're not trying to.
We're not incredibly prepared.
We are not.
So that's. I mean, it was kind of a quick. It was an idea based on our last couple of weeks, and I think it was.
Yeah.
It was just good enough. We were like, yeah, let's try it. So we're gonna attempt it, and we're gonna see how it goes.
Unprepared,
for a living.
Unprepared, yeah. Unprepared for a living. Exactly. That's a new podcast. And so unprepared, unentertaining,
all the uns.
All the uns. But
uninformational.
It was a good time being able to take off and go do some stuff. It wasn't like I wasn't doing my business, because it was just a different form of it. Maybe sourcing in a different area, the networking for sure. When you go to something like a meetup or you're with a bunch of other people, you're also getting that knowledge and that education from.
Well, I think
other people.
The big difference too is you don't have to ask anybody to do that. Like, you didn't have to go to the office and say, hey, can I have these days off? Is it going to work with the schedule? Like, you don't have to ask anybody but yourself. Can you afford to do it?
Yes.
And then it's up to you. I mean, you do have that freedom, which is nice, but it does come at a cost.
It does. Things kind of slow down. Things kind of stop depending on what you're, in our particular, we don't talk about reselling a lot, but in our particular area, there are things that you can do to keep the business going.
Yeah.
There's
batch your work.
Yeah. Beforehand, I find always taking time off, you do so much prep work to be able to go. You're working twice as hard.
I think,
and then when you
had some of that. Yeah, I think I had some of that too, though, when I was working for other people. When I was welding, if I wanted to take a weekend off or a week off or whatever, a lot of times they would say, okay, let's try to get through this batch of whatever before you go. And so you're working double time almost, trying to get some work batched ahead of time so that you're not leaving them in a bad spot. And then, of course, when you get back, you've got a week's worth of work to catch up on too. And they want you to kind of double time it then.
Exactly.
You have very much the same thing when you're working for yourself.
It
The
is.
only difference is when you're working for somebody else, rather you go back to work and put in 10% effort or 100% effort, you're going to
Yeah,
get paid the same as where when you're
exactly.
working for yourself, if you come back and phone it in and put in 10% effort, you're going to get 10% of your paycheck.
Yeah, phone it in. Yeah, my phone's been busy this week since I got back. I can tell you that for sure. Just it's hard to get back into the swing of things.
It
Well,
is.
and also, with the regular 9 to 5 sort of a job, most of the time you've earned that vacation time,
Yeah.
and you're still getting paid. You're getting paid the same amount. You're still gonna get that next check is going to be the same amount. Where depending on what sort of job that you're doing. Again, I can only relate it to my reselling and
Hmm.
things that I have to do to prepare and things I have to do when I get back. But if you have a different sort of, maybe you are a self-employed welder, like you were talking about, and if you're, one man operation, if you're not running a big business, you're just not doing stuff. We've talked about on some previous shows, like if you were to have started one of those pet waste removal, or some of those types of jobs, you have those schedules that you've set up with people to get, and it's a little bit harder. And that's sort of a
It
thing
is.
if you have a set schedule or a service sort of a business.
Service businesses, I would say, especially are affected by that. Like they're much more difficult. You can't build a bunch of widgets and have them on a shelf for somebody to ship.
Exactly.
In a service business, you kind of have to be there to service whatever service you're doing.
Yeah. And so that takes away from the type of business, can take away from some of those freedoms.
Now, I will say
That
I think this is a problem that changes scope depending on your business and depending on how far along you are in your business. We probably back in 2005, because we had employees, we changed over to an S corp, which means we're
Okay.
employees in our own business. So we don't like the business money doesn't come into our bank account. It goes to the business bank account every two
Yeah.
weeks. That business bank account automatically sends us a paycheck. So our
Yeah.
paycheck is going to come no matter what. And so all the money and the capital that's in the business bank account, it's going to pay me my paycheck whether I'm working or not. The question is, how long can that bank account do that if I'm not
Yes.
building the capital consistently and constantly? So it's a lot bigger problem in the early stages than it is in the later stages when you do have
True.
some capital built up. Because the way we're set up, if we take 2 weeks off, we're getting our paycheck regardless.
Yeah.
It's just, the bank account may go down instead of up, which is never a good thing.
And so your current and your reselling and stuff, that's all set up under that S
Yep.
corporation stuff so
Yep.
that it comes in. Okay. Where mine is just individual. All of my money comes into, well, it's my account. I have a business account,
Right.
but that the money comes in and out of so that I can keep records for taxes and income. But I just transfer money from that account over to mine,
This
to
is
my
off
personal account.
topic. This is off topic, but one of the things I like the most about the S corp setup that we have,
Okay.
and we did it out of necessity because we had employees.
Yes.
But since then, because we set it up that way and we are employees of our business, if you ever need to go get a car loan or a house loan or anything like that, when you're self-employed and you just say, no, I work for myself, I resell, it's
Yeah.
very difficult to get a home loan or a car loan or anything like that. But because we've been working for Echo Technologies, which is my S corp, for the last 10 years, I can
Yeah.
show them a 10-year job history with a steady paycheck that's always the same, and I have pay stubs. So it's just like I'm employed. Well, I am employed just by
Yeah.
myself, and
Yes.
that makes a huge difference in a lot. I mean, it looks to the rest of the credit bearing world as if I'm just the same,
Yeah. Yeah,
standard
that's
employee as
that's
everybody
actually
else.
a great point. I mean, that's really not necessarily off topic. I mean, because that's kind of what we talk about, but that's very interesting. We should probably explore that at some point, how you're setting up a self-employed business in that, the S corp. And I never really thought about that with the loans and things like that, being self-employed and just having those personal accounts. It's very hard for a bank. Now, you can either set up an S type corporation,
Yep.
or you can have your mother work in the banking industry for like 35, 40 years
That
to
probably
where it's
works
very
too.
well established. And you just kind of walk into the bank and say, "Hey, can I have some money?" And they go, "Sure. We know you're good for it."
Yeah, we
Because,
don't have
they've
that.
all,
I will tell early on when we were just, when I started like the computer repair business way back when,
yeah,
and then, you have to go get a car and maybe you can't afford it all, so you're gonna try and get a loan for part of it.
yeah,
Getting that loan, like just doing some of the simple things in life, like getting a loan or even getting electricity turned on in a new place. They run a credit check and they
is,
want your job history, and working for yourself, they make that really difficult unless you're set up correctly. So
yeah.
there are advantages and disadvantages to how you set up.
That's, it's something I haven't really thought about. Because most of my stuff is paid off that I have, but I am eventually going to have to get a new vehicle. I'm going to
Yep.
have to, I don't plan on moving or anything. I don't have a plan to move, but you never know what life throws at you. If you would have to get a new place. Yeah, we should look at a guest. If anybody knows a good guest that wants to come on and talk about that at some point, that would be a great topic of setting something up for self-employment. Because it's not all just about the
Just how to structure it.
the money
Yeah.
in. Yeah, I like that topic. Let's call somebody right now. Cory, who do we know? Let's call
Who do
somebody.
we? Well, I could call Teresa, but I think she's still sleeping, so we can't bring her in.
Oh yeah, she would be. She would
She was
know.
a corporate
Uh,
accountant.
yes, we'll have Teresa
Yep.
on as a guest one of these days. Speaking of guests, too, one of the things, when you go out and you hang out with other people in your field is that networking. I started to say that a
Yep.
little bit earlier, is talking with other people that not only just do reselling, but have all of these other side hustles or side things that they do. And so, going to have some great guests coming up in some future episodes. Some people that I talked to over the weekend that are doing some different sort of stuff. And that falls right in line with what we do here on the show of whether it's a side hustle or a whole new direction that they're going. So stay tuned for future
My side
episodes.
hustle, speaking of side hustles, my new side
Yes.
hustle actually broke through the 30-day challenge mark. I've passed the
Oh,
$100 mark in, what's it been since we did that? 2 weeks since I've had my printer, my 3D
couple,
printer.
yeah. Yeah.
So
So
we
the
passed
3D
the $100
printers
mark.
paying off already. You've
It's
designed
not
stuff
paid
and
for, but we've got about 10% of it paid for, which means it passed that $100 mark. So I have
yes.
officially completed another 30-day challenge. So
I'm gonna start my 30-day challenge like the day that I
yeah.
make the day that I make my $100. It's like, shoot, I did this in like one day. And because
But
yeah,
no,
I
and
still
that's a
haven't
freedom
actually.
too. The freedom to be able to just
Yes,
take off and start something and explore new areas. That's hard to do when you're stuck behind an office desk.
it is. Yeah, and finding the time, we talk about the side hustles, and if you do have a regular, 9 to 5 sort of job and getting into something else, um, that
Well, here,
it
I'll
can,
show you what I'm.
yeah,
Okay, time out.
I want to see.
Here's what I'm building with the 3D printer.
Oh,
Those are
okay.
so it's a when we ship things,
Yes,
we have to order these big rolls of thermal labels to ship things
yes,
out with. And they're too heavy. So when you hook them up to your thermal printer, if you use the whole roll, it just drags your printer across the shelf.
yes.
So we built those and it's on a roller. So it actually takes all the weight of the roll away,
It's
and you can just hook the whole roll up. You don't have to unspool it and take half the roll or something. So
and that which is
those have
a
been
time
great.
consuming, painful thing. See, so you're
It
designing
is.
something that's a good tool, not only even if you only used it for your personal use, how
Yep.
much time it has saved taking those big rolls. Because I would do the same thing. I get the big rolls and then either
We unroll
unspool
half of
them
it.
so that they could fit, or I would take those also, just sit in my chair when I'm watching TV and kind of like fan fold it,
Yep.
pull it off the roll and get that roll sitting down on the floor in front of my feet. Kind of like when you were spooling a fishing reel or something like that. You
That's
get
about
the
it.
line taut and I would just sit and fan fold a bunch of those labels. But even that didn't work out. So that's a great. So that's taking. So that is where you're making your 30-day challenge money. You've designed
Yep.
this and you
Yep. I
printed it and you
designed it
sold.
in Fusion 360, like it's like an AutoCAD program,
Yeah.
and then printed it out.
That's
That's like the third version of it that actually worked. Like trying to get,
okay.
I had to make the roller two pieces so that
Okay.
it could spin freely and get the
That
weight
is
of the
cool.
roll out of it. And that's what finally worked. So we tested it out and we love it. So we put them on our
That's
website,
well,
started selling them, and we've sold a few.
I'm gonna have to pick one of those up. I know we don't usually do commercials or whatever, but we'll throw a link, right? Yes, no, we'll throw a link
Yeah, we can
down
put a link down there.
in
Yeah.
the thing if somebody's interested in something like that. You can pick that up from over there at Grams and Pops. But that's
Yeah.
cool. So yeah, that goes along with that show that we did. Is 3D printing a viable
Side hustle so far.
side hustle, or perhaps turn that in? Can you see turning that into a full-time business,
If you ever
or
had
is
a
it always going to
product,
be a side hustle?
if you ever had a product like that that kind of took off, like right now I'm trying to think of things I could build to put on Etsy, but I don't like the little articulated toys and
Yeah.
stuff that everybody else is printing. If I make something, I want it to have a use, some kind of function.
Okay.
So if I could think of something like that that actually does well and it'll take off on Etsy, then yeah, you could turn it into a full-time business, but not with
Yeah,
one printer. Like you'd have to scale up in order to keep up. So right now it's just a side hustle and it's fun and I'm making lots of cool stuff for myself, but I want to pay for that printer, like get that printer paid off to where it's free to me. So that right now, that's my only goal with it. So it's a fun little side gig that should pay for itself in the long run.
So I think the 30-day challenge from this point is to see if it's not another 30 days before Cory goes out and buys another printer.
I almost did at it. I found one at a garage sale this weekend.
Did you buy it or did you just?
I didn't. It was kind of a homemade one. I definitely was interested, but it was really cheaply built. Like now that I have this one, I've been so spoiled. Like it's such a nice printer. Like I don't want to buy something I have to work on all the time. So I didn't mess with it. I'd left it, but it was cool to see one out there. And if it had been a little sturdier machine, I probably would have bought it because it does get frustrating when you turn that on and you have to wait 8 hours to get the product out of it and then do the next one.
That would kill me. I would just sit there for 8 hours. I'm not a multitasker. We've talked about that. I would just sit there and stare into that little printer all day and watch it print all these little doodads.
It is very tempting to do that, but no, let's see, to bring it back on topic a little bit, as far as like the wrong side of the freedom, like the ball and chain part of this.
Yeah.
Like I do think little things like that, the 3D printer and the little side things you do can be very distracting and they can really hamper what you're doing. Is that hamper? That might not be right. That's where you put your clothes. Maybe that's the right word. I don't know.
Hey, you could 3D print a new hamper, Cory.
You could in pieces. But it's very easy to get distracted and have your business suffer if you don't figure out how to actually force yourself. At a job, you go there and you have somebody to tell you we need to do this task today. And when you're working for yourself, you don't have that. So figuring out some kind of structure and discipline to stay on task can really, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest challenges of working for yourself is figuring out how to be productive. Yeah,
agreed. And I know in last week's episode, if you go back and if haven't listened to that with Dan, you guys had talked about that
a little bit.
In staying motivated, getting stuff done. I struggle with that myself. I
think everybody does.
I truly do make enough to stay unemployed. That's about what I do. Is the bills are paid and there's food in my belly, but and then when you take that time off, that freedom of being able to take time off, you kind of maybe fool yourself into thinking, oh yeah, I'm self-employed, I could take this time off and just be great. And then until you get to that next, say, billing cycle, and it's like, oh no, where's that extra money? If you haven't built it to a point where you have that fallback, I'm not living paycheck to paycheck, but you got to keep that going.
I know I've brought it up a few times where, I really don't work for the money. I have a weird relationship with money. I don't like money. I don't really care about the money. I really just want my time back. And I know I've mentioned that a few times.
Yeah.
I work for the time. So the more money I make, the more time it gives me to do other things. So that's,
Yeah.
I'm more motivated by the time factor than the money time. If I make enough to where I could take 3 weeks off, then that's better than if I make enough to only take 2 days off. So I kind of
Yes.
measure how I'm doing by how much of a cushion I have to go do the things I would rather do. And I don't think that can happen without setting up some kind of a structure. Like you have to almost
Yeah.
force yourself to do the work to get the reward, because if you're not structured in any way at all, and it's just, I'm going to work for myself and I'm going to do, the dog scooping thing, but you
Yeah.
only take on one client because you just want to do it once a week, it's going to be very difficult to try to make that
So,
work and do well with it.
yeah, to have it be a full time, that's almost at that point just a supplemental thing. Yeah, you always got to put in the work at some point, whether you're working for someone or whether you're working for yourself. You got to
Well,
keep those motivations.
it's much easier to be lazy working for someone else. Like I remember having jobs where
Yeah,
I would go to work and I'm just like, okay, I'm on 10% today. Like I'm
been
gonna
there.
I'm gonna work
Yes.
really hard at looking busy today. And that's what I would do. And I'd get the same paycheck.
Yes. Yeah, that we've all done that. I've done that several times
And that doesn't
myself,
happen when you work
in
for
the
yourself.
no, you got to keep moving, and you got to keep looking at different directions and different things, because whatever you choose that you're doing. I know, again, we do reselling, and sometimes that just gets boring. I'm tired
Do
of
you have do
doing.
you have any kind of a schedule or a routine? It doesn't have to be specific about what you're doing or anything, but do you have any kind of a routine built to where you kind of hold yourself accountable a little bit?
I do not, and I used to, when I first started being self-employed. Um, I treated it just like my previous 30 or 40 years of working. Is I would get up early and I would do this, and this. And as I kind of built a business, I got a little bit lazier. I kind of took advantage of those freedoms that I had.
Hmm.
And it's hard to get back into it unless you're like a
It
really
is.
self-motivated person. Um, and I have let some of that fall to the wayside of that structure. Or I I always say I rest on my laurels, as far as if I have had a good week of sales, or I have
Yeah.
had a couple good days or purchases. It's like, oh, okay, I've made my money for this week or this month or this whatever, and I find myself slacking off and not
Yep.
getting this stuff done. Where what my goal should be is to build that, to have that extra going into the savings, going back into the business, so that I can keep continuing, so that all of a sudden one day I'm not like, oh no,
It's hard.
I need to figure this out. So I do not have a regular structure every day. Something I thought about a lot. I did get energized and motivated during my time off, hanging out with other people and hearing different ways that people do it. And hopefully on this show too, we pass along some of those things that get somebody juiced up and excited about doing something new and different. I think that's what I need, is something new and different.
Well, and that's
To,
me too with my ADHD tendencies. Like new and different is what keeps you going forward. If something gets stale or
yeah,
boring, you're checking out. Like
yeah,
I can't keep doing it. I have to have new and different all the time. But you can schedule new and different, and that's something that we've kind of done
yeah,
over the years. Is if we're going to structure something in order for me to have any discipline at all, which I don't, like it's very difficult for me to be disciplined and just get up every day at 8 and do the thing.
yeah,
If I'm going to make it to where I can do that, I have to be very specific. Like I don't say I'm going to get up at 8 o'clock, but I say, tomorrow, what I'm going to do between 1
yeah,
and 4 is this thing. And that's all I'm going to do. And I set a time limit on it. So I know when I'm doing it, there's no reason
yeah,
to slack off. Like I'm stuck in this chair till 4 o'clock, regardless. So I might as well do the work. And I have to be that specific with it, or it doesn't work for me. And it has to have a
yeah,
time limit. It can't just be tomorrow I need to work on doing like cleaning the shop. I can't do that because I'll
yeah,
go out there and I'll look at the shop and I'll be like, this is a lot. Maybe I'll watch YouTube
Yeah.
and I won't do
Ex-
anything.
yeah. I think that's a a big part of it is setting those goals, those time frames, those because I have got and where I struggle with certain things is I've got to the point where I've allowed it to get overwhelming for me,
Big one.
where when I say, okay, if I'm going to structure this amount of time, I'm going to clean the office from 1 to 4 or whatever it is, or I'm going to list these things, or I'm going to do. I see all of the other things. I get distracted
Yep.
by all of the other things that are that I could also be doing, and it gets to be like, well, in order to do this task that I want to do, I need to do this one first, but I
Yep.
don't want to do that one, and so
I'll tell you what,
I get myself
that's
backwards and turned
difficult.
around. It is.
I suffer from the same thing. Like I'll set a time where I need to go list this product on a platform, and I have 12 of them. I need to get photos of all of them. So just as an example, I need to do that task today, and I need to do it for 4 hours to get it done. And then I'll go out there to do it, and I'll see my bench is covered with other stuff. And then I'm like, okay, well, I got to clean first. And I've
Yes.
kind of gotten myself to the point now where if I say I got to go out there for 4 hours and do this task, and I discover, oh, my bench is full from yesterday because I'm a slob, I will just dump everything into a bag to clear the bench. I'm not going to spend the time to clean it. I need the bench,
Yeah.
clear the bench, and get to work. And you have to deal with that other mess later. You have to block a time to do that. But you also have to block a time. Like for me, I have to block a time where, tomorrow, for 2 hours, I'm going to think of a way to grow my business. Not just, you always have to do the non-negotiables. Like in our business, we have to ship, we have to pack, we have to deal with customer emails. Those are non-negotiable if you want to stay in business.
Yes.
But I like to actually schedule a few hours now and then to think of a way to grow my business, to get it to the next level. So I'll spend 2 hours of just sitting down and thinking of a way to grow the business. And then I also like to schedule in, here's 2 hours this week. Do something fun and exciting with the business. Make it to where when I know I've mentioned it before, like if I'm excited about my business, and I'm almost always excited about business, but if I'm excited about my business, I can't sleep in the morning. I'm up at 6 o'clock. Like I want to get up and do the next thing. And that's how you know you're doing the right thing. As soon as I'm like, I just want to sleep a few more hours, I don't want to get out of bed, I have to switch it up. I need to schedule time to do something new and exciting. Because if I'm not excited to get up and do my job, I might as well just go get a job.
True. Why do I feel personally attacked here, Cory?
No, that's me. That's me personally.
I know, but
you.
it's like you were speaking to me like, oh, if I feel like I want to sleep in a couple more hours or whatever.
I think that's just a sign
again, that goes.
You're going down the wrong path. I think if you don't like your job enough to be excited to get up and do it, now not every day. Some days you just got to go do the grind, and those days suck, and I get that. But in general, if you're not excited to do your job, for me, that's just a sign that I'm on the wrong path, and I need to readjust. I need to put something into the job that is exciting.
Yes, and that's where I'm at. But it's also kind of goes back to that, how those freedoms, just to kind of bring it back to what we were talking about, those freedoms of being completely self-employed is can also be the downfall.
That is one of the freedoms.
If you don't have the drive, the motivation, the ambition to keep going, to make those changes, to plan, like you said, you like to take time to just think. I'm gonna take a couple hours today. I'm gonna jot down some stuff, and I know you use a lot of whiteboard stuff. You do all of your stuff on a whiteboard, and you jot down these ideas, and you erase them, and you check mark them, and you put them. And getting back to that structure and not taking advantage of the freedoms.
And that is a freedom too, is being able to do those things. Yeah. If you're working in a job where you got to go to work every day and build a widget, like that's your job, is to just build as many of those widgets as you can. You can't go to work tomorrow and restructure that job to make it fun.
Yeah.
Like
true.
You have to build that widget, and you have to build a certain number of them, and that's your job. You can't go reinvent that job to make it more exciting. And that is a freedom of working for yourself, is you can do that. And I think that's a big part of working for yourself is finding, I do think anybody can make their job exciting if you're working for yourself. Like there are
Yeah.
ways to do that with any job, no matter what it is. Well, when I go to a conference like you went to,
Yeah.
usually by the end of that conference, if the conference is worth going to, by the end of that conference, you're wanting to go home, not because you're tired or you've had enough. You
Yeah.
want to get back and do some of the things you learned about. You're excited to go try the stuff you learned or take
Exactly.
advantage of the networking that you did.
Yeah. And that's, both of our time off here recently was kind of structured around what we do for
Yeah.
a living. And I did come home more motivated, where let's say the event that you did was speakers, people that are talking about that thing. Mine was more of a just networking, just getting to talk with different people and hear what they're doing. And, a lot of people went out and did sourcing, went to yard sales and, in our reselling business, and to see the things that they found and to see the things that they did it was motivational to me to
Yeah.
go, oh yeah, I need to get back into that fun, exciting part of it. And of course, in our area, the yard sales are just now really starting to kick in because it is seasonal for that part of the sourcing, which is the fun
Yep.
stuff. Um, and
The
so,
treasure
yeah,
hunting.
I did come back energized to do stuff. And today, well, we're recording this on Sunday. And so that is my plan for today is to take some of that time and take some of that information that I've learned, kind of get re-energized about that stuff, restructure a few things that I'm doing because I am
See, and
excited. I am motivated to do it. And in the end, on the backside of that, hopefully that will be, more profits, more income, more money, more however you want to look at it.
I have about 4 hours today where I'm going to be sitting. I have to mow my lawn, and we have about 6 acres to mow, and I have to do it. Like it's
Yes.
been put off because it's been raining, raining, raining. So I've got about 4 hours today where I'm going to be able to plug my headphones in and just think of what I want to do with my business while I'm on the
Yes.
lawnmower. And that's a time that I utilize because once you're on that mower and
I
you got your
do.
headphones plugged in and you just go, like that's me. I'm probably pretty fortunate in the fact that I do have a bit of ADHD and I'm all over the place, but it makes me really enjoy the learning part of business.
Okay.
I love to learn new things because the same thing just drives me nuts. So I love
Yes.
to explore new areas and learn new things. And it's what drives me the most is learning. So to sit and think for 4 hours, by the time I'm done with that lawnmower, like I'm almost ready to sprint in the house
And
because I've
yeah.
got stuff I need to write down and I'm excited to try. And I mean that's a time where it's kind of a non-negotiable. I have to mow the lawn. I might as well
Yes.
use that time to use
Do a
my
lot
brain a
of
little bit.
thinking. I do a
Yeah.
lot of thinking on the mower. For sure. I don't
Yes.
have as big a property. I don't have the palatial estate that Cory has that
Yeah.
he has to mow. But hey,
I'll
there's
trade
an
you the
idea,
mowing
Cory. You said you were ready to sprint into the house and get stuff written down.
if I could
With
sprint.
with your 3D printer, you should make some sort of a holder or contraption to put a whiteboard on your mower that would
It's not a
hold
terrible
it
idea.
so that while you were actually mowing, you could jot down all these
Could
ideas.
you
There,
imagine how that chicken scratch would look?
you can have that one for free. You can have that one, if you make some money off of it, that's great.
Well,
But
that's the thing about thinking. They're not all good ideas.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I spend a lot of time brainstorming poor ideas or stuff that I get excited about. And once you go to flesh it out to
Yeah.
really, go through, you go,
I didn't
nah, that's a horrible idea.
I think that I don't know. I really if it's hard to put into words that the importance of being able to sit and think and to find a way to make your business
Yeah.
exciting. And I know we're kind of drilling that home heavy here, but I I think it's probably the key to staying in a business for me, to not getting
Okay.
bored and staying in the business and making it successful. Because I think with any business, you really have to be a little bit loose in the head. You got to be a little bit delusional yourself to
Okay.
think that your
Yeah.
business is going to succeed because most don't.
True. Oh yeah.
So the longer you can keep yourself delusional and thinking this is a great idea and this is going to work and I'm helping people with this business. The longer you can keep yourself in that delusion, the more successful your business is going to be. As soon as you hit that
I'll
wall
find
where
that.
you're thinking, this is, what I do is kind of dumb and it's not really going to work. And I should do, as soon as you come to that snap of a little bit of reality, your
Uh-huh.
business is going to tank. So you really do have to work at keeping yourself delusionally
Yes.
optimistic about your business.
I'm going to write that down.
We need t-shirts,
Delusionally optimistic. Yes. It's some new merch. There you go. Maybe we make money doing merch.
new merch.
Delusionally
It is though, if you think about it, starting a
optimistic.
business and saying this is a business that other people are going to give me their hard-earned money to provide this service or product. It is a little bit delusional. Like you have to
Yeah.
convince yourself that what you're doing is good enough for other people to want to give you money for consistently
Yes.
and long term. You have to stay in that mind space. And it is kind of, some people call it
It-
optimism. I call it delusional. It is slightly delusional, and you have to stay there.
yeah. And I guess that amount of effort. And if you're excited about it and you think that it's a really good idea
And
and you
other people
keep
will be.
pushing, yeah. Yes, it's if you can get somebody else excited about it, somebody that wants to give you money. I like that.
Well,
I like
I mean, Ken,
that thought
you
process.
sell items to people. Like it, I mean, a lot of businesses do. You sell items to people, physical goods. If you're
Yes.
trying to sell something to someone in person and you're like, I've got this thing and I don't really like it and it doesn't really have any use and it's kind of crap and I don't think anybody would want to. Would you like to give me money for this? Like that's not a good sales pitch.
No.
But if you're like, guys, this every time I take a drink of this, I feel like I float. This is awesome. Like buy this stuff. You
Yes.
won't believe how good this is. Like that's a much more convincing sales pitch. You have to be a
Exactly.
little delusional to keep that up and make your business thrive.
Over and over. Yeah, I agreed. 100%. Delusionally optimistic. I
There,
like it.
we got a new tagline. This show was a success already. I like this. We talked ourselves
Yeah.
into being delusional.
Which is how we got started in the first place.
It is.
Yeah. But yeah, I know we kind of just been all. Are we even providing any information today, Cory? I think we've kind of went round and round. We wanted to talk about
We
those
are.
the
Well, I think the
freedoms and stuff,
takeaway
but
is stay crazy, right? That's the takeaway.
it's exactly thinking that you can provide a service or a product to somebody that they're going to pay you money for, and
It's nuts.
do it consistently on a regular basis. Yeah, I don't. Now I'm
Well,
rethinking my life, Cory.
I think that's part of the structure of it, though. Like I
Yeah.
said, that you need that time to actually keep yourself in that headspace, and it's hard. Like I can't
Yes.
tell you how many businesses I started where I was so excited and I was jazzed up to get out there and like everybody's going to want this thing and this is going to be great, and then wake up 3 days later and be like, this was kind of a dumb idea. I should
Yeah.
not. Like nobody's going to want this. You talk yourself out of it, and that's just you snapping yourself into this weird like reality
Yes.
when you should have stayed excited and stayed optimistic and if you had, that business probably would have done fine. But
Would
I
have
know
taken
you've
off.
done it. You're the king of this, like talking yourself out of doing a good idea because
Oh,
you snapped to reality and you
100%.
didn't stay delusional.
Yes, 100%. I'm an idea guy. I think personally I have a lot of great ideas about business and business directions and business stuff, but I get in my own way. I
Well, maybe you're not.
overthink it without just like acting on certain things, and
That's
maybe I need
because
to be a little more
I think it's
delusional.
because you're too sane.
That might
Like
be.
you have those
I
clarity moments of reality where you're like, I don't think people are going to want this. And then you start doubting it. And then it's a
and
bad idea. And you should have just stayed in the crazy zone because
and
that's,
the crazy
if you're excited, someone else will be too.
the
You just have
last
to
the
figure out
last
how to
thing you
stay there.
ever really want to do. Here's a
Is be
bit of
too
advice
sane.
for everybody. Well, just get inside this head right here. That's the last thing that anybody would want to do. I kind of want to take a break from it every now and then.
Me
And
too. Not
but
yours,
maybe I
mine.
should. No,
My
yeah,
own head.
it's so
Although if you
yeah.
want in here, there's plenty of room.
You
There's not
got
a lot going
mine's
on.
mine's filled up constantly with great ideas, with new things, and then also with doubts. Um, it kind of goes along with that as well. So yeah, I
Well, I'm
don't know.
glad we had
It
the
just
freedom to be self-employed and put out this mediocre episode. I mean,
oh,
that's a
for sure.
benefit.
Yeah, we're gonna pick it back up. We're just I'm still getting into that headspace of being back in regular, and we didn't really talk much this week because I was gone, and so we didn't
Yeah.
formulate a topic or get anything where we were going to do some research on
Well,
something, either a new
I think this is a good topic. I do think self-employment offers you a lot of freedoms, but I do take,
yeah
and I'm not one of those guys that's like grind, grind, grind. I don't like the grind culture where you have to work 80 hours a week and just outwork everybody. I'm not a big
yeah
believer in that. Although you tend to do that when you're excited about what you're doing. But
yes
I'm not a big proponent of, you know, if you want to get ahead, you just have to work the 80 hours a week. I'm not that
yeah
guy. But I do think you have to figure out some discipline and structure behind it to get those freedoms. And I
yeah
think that's a big missing part of a lot of people's businesses. It's just some of that structure needs to be, what are my non-negotiables? I need to get that on a schedule and a routine.
yeah
Then you got to schedule in some time to actually figure out every once in a while, how do I grow from where I'm at? And then you got to schedule some time to just
yeah
be on a lawnmower and think and find new exciting ways to make your
true.
job to stay delusional. You have to
And
schedule that time too.
if you are, I know, if you are excited about what you're doing, you are making money or you are growing or progressing, that's even if you are working 80 hours a week at it, it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like it. If it's fun and
No,
exciting, it doesn't seem like you're working. And again, you do want to get up in the morning, right out of bed and get back to it because you are excited. And
that's my
I have
early warning
had that.
system. Every time, that's
It's
my early warning system. When I start sleeping
if
in, I have to change it. Like if I can't figure out a way to make my job exciting again, I need to build a new company. Like that is my early
yeah,
warning system, that the moment I start sleeping in, if I didn't go out and do a jujitsu match or something, like have a reason to be sleeping in, then
yes,
it's because my brain is done with what I'm doing. And I need to figure out how to make it
that's
exciting again. And it's worked over the years. If I get to that point where I'm like, it's 9 o'clock in the morning and I'm not wanting to get out of bed, like something's wrong.
well, because we don't do necessarily a service type of, where you have a schedule to go out and service and
I
help
have.
somebody in a business. It's I also one of the detriments for me as far as the freedoms is I go, okay, well, I don't have to get out of bed early this morning to do my job. It doesn't matter whether I do my job at 9 in the morning or whether I do it 9 at night. I'll just put that off. I'll do that a little bit later in the day. I'm going to go do this fun thing now. And then
Procrastination.
you get to that, you know, 7, 8 in the evening and you haven't got enough done. I know I always feel when I have a good productive day of working, I
Feels
sleep
good.
well that night.
Yeah.
I go to bed with a good feeling. I don't go to bed with that, oh, I'm behind. Tomorrow I need to get up and really put more effort into it, which then kind of drags you down a little bit of, oh, I've got all of this stuff I slacked off today. But when I get a really good productive day or two or three, I go to bed, I sleep well, I'm excited, I'm refreshed to get stuff
Yep.
done. The shout out to Kenny Get Stuff Done. It's another name that on another show that I do. But yeah,
I like to.
staying motivated and not taking advantage of the freedoms that we have,
Well, they
using
won't
those
stay
freedoms
freedoms
to
if you
your
do.
advantage. They do
Yeah.
not. They do not.
I'll go to bed a lot of times and I'll wake up at like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and look at the clock and I'm like, geez, it's not time to get up yet. Like I want to go. Like I'll be excited to do what I need to do the next day. Like that's
Never
how
had
I
that.
know things are working.
Yeah, I've never had that. I've never
I have that
I've
all the
never
time.
woken up at 4 or 5. Usually it's like, oh man, I don't want to get out of bed, but I have to pee. And so
Well, I
now
have
I'm
that
gonna
too,
get up.
but
And then I'm like, oh, I can sleep for another couple of hours before I should get up. And
I do have that often. When things are going good in my business, I do often wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning and be disappointed in what the clock says because I can't get up and do
really,
something yet. I do that. That is an often
that's
experienced
a
thing when things are working well.
well, that's a good I don't know, it's not a problem. It's not a problem at all. But yeah, if I woke up at
It's
four or
not a
five in the
problem, but it
morning,
is
you just don't want to
disappointing.
get
My clock doesn't always work with me, but
well,
it is a
if
good
you
thing. That's how you know things are working.
Just think if you were in my time zone, it'd be an hour later.
It
Just
would
think,
be, but
when you
but the
wake,
clock
just
would be wrong.
there you go. Go to bed in the central time zone. Wake up in the Eastern time zone. You'd be 1 hour more productive every day. There you go. Perfect. Wake
See,
up
my
with an
clock really
Eastern
messes with me right now
mindset.
because I have an older clock in the bedroom, and
Okay.
it has to be changed for daylight savings. It doesn't change itself.
Okay.
But I will not set that dang clock.
You're not
I
going
will
to change
not.
it?
It stays. So once a year, it comes back around to be in the right time. Right now, it's the wrong time again. So I roll over and I look at the clock, and it says 3 in the morning when it's actually 4 in the morning
Okay.
because we sprang forward. So it's wrong by an hour right now, and I have to wait till daylight savings times for it to be right again because I'm not changing the time on that dang clock twice a year. I'm just not going to do it.
There you go. I just thought of a new side hustle, Cory. I'm going to be a daylight savings time clock changer.
You just go
I'm
around
just
and
gonna,
change people's clocks.
yeah, just change people's clocks. They say that you should change. And in an extra service, they say if you have smoke detectors and stuff, that's a good time. That's a good way to remember. Change your batteries in your smoke detectors when you do the time change or whatever. And so, man, I got a whole now. See how excited and motivated I am now, Cory,
You're
because
going to
I'm
be up
going
at
to
4 in the
start a
morning
new
thinking about how
side
to
hustle of
advertise side hustles.
changing clocks. Daylight savings. So I only have to work basically 2 days a year, right?
Yep.
See, if I charged about $1,500 a person to come in and change your clock,
Well,
my
it's a
pricing
luxury
structure might be a
service.
little off.
It
It
is a
is.
luxury service.
I'm sure there's somebody out there. If I was excited, motivated, and could pitch it well, somebody would be excited about having me come in. And I know Jill, for example, her clock stays like that just because she's
Mhm.
not a technology person. She doesn't know how to change it. She doesn't want to get in there and figure out the buttons and all of that stuff.
It would
I
take
could
30
go,
seconds to figure out how to change the clock in my room, but I
yes,
don't know how, and it's not important enough for me to learn how. And I just know after about a week when I roll over and look at the clock, okay, it's an hour different than that.
it's a.
And then it's in your head.
How
And
much
then when
would
the
you pay
time
for
comes
that
back around,
service,
you're
though?
good.
How much?
What's
Let's
that?
brainstorm this. How much would you pay for that service for me to come over in your bedroom and change your clock?
One, I don't want you in my bedroom.
How much would you pay me to stay out of your bedroom, Cory? That might be the next thing.
That could be the more lucrative option.
It might be. It might be. All right. Now we're just talking nonsense. And it's good to be back.
It's good to have you back.
Motivated. It's good to have the freedoms to take that time off, to rest up, to get re-energized about things, and get motivated to do a better episode next week. How about that? How about if somebody made it this far, we'll promise a little more structure and not just
Well, if that's not delusionally
BS in our
optimistic, I
wisdom.
don't know what is.
Agreed. We'll catch you next week on Unemployed for a Living.